But before the new session of Congress begins, we're taking a look back on the previous session. And according to data from the National Archives, less than 210 bills were enacted into law in the course of 2 years, making the 118th session of Congress the least productive in more than 30 years. News Nation's Alina Shirazi has more.
The partisan gridlock from both parties in Congress certainly playing a factor here. As we know, this session of Congress goes down as one of the least productive in American history. We're looking at this Congress, the 118th session, compared to last year. We know this Congress passed just 209 bills over the last 2 years. We know that's down from more than 350 in the last Congress. But keep in mind that on average, each Congress over the last 32 years has passed more than 389 bills that were signed into law. A lot of the gridlock was fueled by partisan battles between the Republican-controlled House and Democratic Senate, as well as the White House, not to mention several funding fights as well. Efforts to expel New York Congressman and accused fraudster George Santos from office, 2 representatives being indicted, and of course, notable infighting amongst the GOP, leading to the historic removal of Speaker Kevin McCarthy and the days-long efforts to replace him. And now some Republican lawmakers warning House Speaker Mike Johnson and the rest of the GOP to work across the aisle and not hand control over to the party's right-wing base. Listen here.
I think we still got to govern from the center to the right and not just from the far right, because the fact is you're not going to get those votes in the House or Senate if you try to govern that way. I heard a couple times this week, we get 100%, the Democrats are going to get 0. It doesn't work that way. James Madison designed a system that forces a consensus building. And so you can't just govern from an extreme position.
And as Congress is gearing up for the new session in the new year, we know that Republicans will hold the trifecta, the White House as well as both chambers of Congress, the Senate as well as the House. But the question is, can the GOP form a unified front moving forward? In Washington, Alina Shirazi, News Nation.
And both chambers are set to hold their first meetings of the new session later this week. In the U.S. Senate, members will gather tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, while the U.S. House of Representatives is scheduled to hold a first meeting of the session at 10 o'clock on Friday.